You're listening to the Morphology Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Morphology Podcast, aka Murph here to share interviews about biking experiences from cyclists who have pedaled to places all over. Each week, we will get to know new people and explore new destinations to ride your bike. As you listen to these adventures, you may wonder, why haven't I done that yet? And before we start, a quick welcome to our newest sponsor, Hammerhead. Use code MURPHOLOGY at hammerhead.io to get a free heart rate monitor with your Karoo too. So RAGBRAI 2022 is history, and what a ride it was. It was like my, 25th or 26th RAGBRAI, and I may have to call this year my favorite. The weather was beautiful, and not only did I get to ride my bike all week, I was also lucky enough to be part of the RAGBRAI social media crew. It gave me a new and fun perspective on the ride that I thoroughly enjoyed. And the highlight of the week was meeting a famous YouTuber that I have been following for a very long time. And OMG, he agreed to come on the podcast. So here it is. Ryan Van Duzer is on to share his RAGBRAI experience along with some of his other bicycle adventures. So an unexpected canceled Sweden trip gave Duzer an opening in his schedule, and he jumped on the chance to come to Iowa to enjoy RAGBRAI again. A lifetime Boulder, Colorado resident, Ryan has spent all of his life enjoying the outdoors and now inspires others to get out there. He documents his adventures on YouTube at Duzer TV, and his amazing videos are the reason a group of us did the epic San Juan Mountain Hut to Hut ride back in 2020. You can hear all about it in episode 55. Duzer calls RAGBRAI the most amazing bike event in the world, and of course I agree. I love that he loves my home state almost as much as I do. So here's my interview with Duzer. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ryan Van Duzer to the podcast. Hey, Ryan.
Hello, hello.
Or
Psyched to be here.
or should we call you Duzer? Like, do you go by a nickname?
Yeah, a lot of people call me Duzer. I mean, as growing up as a kid, that was like the cool way to address me.
Yeah.
But I don't ever introduce myself as Duzer. That sounds a little silly. Like, hey, I'm Duzer.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'll tell people my name is Ryan, but people usually just pick up and call me Duzer anyway.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, my name is actually, people might not know, but I do have a real name, which is Kathy, but most people call me Murph. And
Yeah.
as life has gone on, I now start introducing myself as Murph. But it's probably because of this podcast, because, when people see me, they'll be like, "Are you Murph?" And I'm like, all
Yeah.
right. Yes, I am.
Yep.
Okay, so for listeners, I don't know if there's anybody out there that doesn't know who you are, but like I've been following you for a long time. And by following you, I don't mean literally, like I'm not in your
Are you right
hometown.
behind me right now?
I'm peeking in the window, and
Okay.
I like that shirt you have.
Oh, it's a good shirt. It's my favorite. It's the Duzer and Murph podcast show shirt.
Yes. Wait, where's mine then? That's crazy.
Oh, it's in the mail.
Okay, but anyway, okay, listeners, don't do it now because I want you to listen to this interview. But when we're done, go to YouTube and type in Duzer TV, and you'll get a taste for what this man has done. And Ryan, I mean, you're a bicycle adventure junkie for sure, but
Mm.
I've also described you as a filmmaker, a TV personality. Of course, I just mentioned being a YouTuber, but there's so much more to you. So, how would you describe you?
Well, I'm a mama's boy.
Oh,
I'm born and raised here in Boulder, Colorado, and I grew up with the great outdoors right outside my back door. So I've been very fortunate and lucky to have grown up in a town like this that really values nature and exercise and
mm-hmm.
bikes and running and all sorts of fun stuff. So, I've always just really loved being outside.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what led to my career essentially is I wanted to start a show about going outside and inspiring people to get off their couches to challenge themselves. So way back in 2006, I started a public access TV show
Whoa.
inspired by Wayne's World completely. And the show was called Out There. And I would run around Boulder with a little Sony Handycam and film these goofy little adventures and make a half-hour show that would play in public access. And that's how my career got started, and I loved it. It was fun. It was exciting. I didn't make any money because it's public access, so I lived in my mom's basement for a long time. That's why maybe I'm the mama's boy. And slowly have made a career out of this whole crazy idea of, going on adventures and inspiring people to get out there.
And I will count myself as one of the people you inspired. And specifically, it was the San Juan Hut trip that you did, which
Mm,
was the hut to hut. And
yeah.
I would, I don't know if I can really say I have any mountain biking skills,
Mhm.
but we shared your videos amongst my friend group and found 8 people willing to do it. And we did that trip. And I'm still not a mountain biker, but holy moly, that was one of the most epic adventures I've been on.
Yeah, they do a good job at those adventures, and they're beautiful, and the mileage is attainable, and you don't have to be an expert to pull it off, and then you don't have to carry a lot of gear because the huts have all the food and sleeping equipment.
Yes, yeah. What was the candy bar that you were so
Oh, the nutty bars or whatever they're
uh
called.
no,
No, salted
salted
nut
nut
rolls.
rolls. Yes.
Salted nut rolls. Yeah, yeah, those are still gross in my book. But I caused a lot of YouTube controversy because I ripped on them in my videos, and people in the comment section really went to town about their love for salted nut rolls.
I'm sorry, I am one of the people that love salted nut rolls. I mean, they won't melt in your bag. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's a plus. But yeah. When you have a choice between a salted nut roll and a Snickers, I mean, come on.
Oh,
It's easy
yes.
choice.
Okay, you're right. You're right. I would for sure pick the Snickers every time. So,
Yeah.
okay, so beyond San Juan Huts and like beautiful, uh, I guess you'd say the entire U.S. is beautiful at some level. But
Yeah.
you said you live in Boulder, and
Hmm.
also based on your videos, I know you can almost walk outside your home and be on trails and in nature.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Boulder and biking.
I'm actually sitting outside right now under a tree behind my apartment, looking at the foothills. I am steps away from all of the trails
Oh
in this
wow!
area. Yeah, but Boulder's always been a really bike-friendly city. Starting way back, I don't know, in the 70s, the city really started prioritizing safe ways to get around town by bicycle. So we have over 350 miles of bike lanes and bike paths all around
Wow.
Boulder, which is very unique. I totally realize that not every city is like this. Most cities in America are very dangerous to ride a bike, but
Mm-hmm.
we are what they call a platinum level bicycle friendly city, as described by the League of American Cyclists. And there's a handful of these towns around the United States. Davis, California. I think Fort Collins is actually one. And yeah, so it's a place where you'll see lots of parents riding their kids to school on a cargo bike,
Oh
you
wow.
know, or, families going out on their day trips. And, we have the elite athletes here because we're at high altitude, and all the pros like to come here and train in the mountains. But it's just really a great place to ride a bike. I've never had a car in my life. I vowed to never drive essentially when I
Mm.
was a young guy, and so I ride a bike everywhere and do all of my grocery shopping and errands and everything on a bike.
Wow. So you are in the perfect spot because it's such a bike friendly community. You have the luxury to be able to do that.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm very lucky that I live here. And I think a lot of other cities around the nation are finally realizing, okay, this is important to have bike-friendly infrastructure, because the number one reason why people don't want to ride bikes is because they don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom is in that bucket. And so if we can make more protected bike lanes and more bike paths where people feel safe to ride their bikes and not get, run over by a car, I think that's a good thing. And cities across the country are finally getting it and putting money into infrastructure, which is exciting.
Yeah, and I've talked about this before, and I work from home now, so I don't actually commute, but like your mind is in a completely different place when you ride your bike to work versus get in a car and deal with traffic and just the hubbub of life in a car versus a bike.
Totally. You think back to some of your best childhood memories. I'm guessing a lot of you out there listening, it's when you learned how to ride a bike and you feel the freedom of two wheels, and you get to ride past the confines of your little neighborhood, and you get to explore. And that's the same feeling I get every day when I ride a bike, and many other people. So I think if we can get more humans riding bikes, I think it sounds crazy, but society will be better as a whole. I mean,
Yeah.
it solves a lot of problems.
Yes, I agree. And one other thing to point out about Boulder that I've also seen on some of your social media sites is Boulder has this really cool cruiser ride, right? Is that
Yeah.
is that weekly or monthly?
It's weekly, and today's
Whoa.
Friday morning, so I was out there late last night cruising with all my buddies. And I've been doing this since 1999, over 20 years. I started cruising when I was in college. Back then, it was a fairly small group, and the idea was just to have a group ride that was not about exercise, really, no spandex. We get dressed up in costumes. We have, bells and horns, and we have bikes that carry loud stereos, and we ride around town and whoop and holler, and we wish everybody a happy Thursday. And it's so fun.
I absolutely love that. We need more cities to adopt, recreational rides like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, more and more cities are doing it, which is great. It's just a fun way to meet people. If you came on the Boulder Cruiser ride, you'd see a slice of Boulder that you wouldn't see, on the typical mall or something. You
Yeah.
get a little bit of everybody. Everybody feels comfortable. You can be a bit of an outcast or a weirdo, and everybody's welcome.
A quick interruption to introduce you to our newest sponsor, Hammerhead. The Hammerhead Karoo 2 cycling computer helps you find your path forward and unlock your full potential on every ride. For a limited time, listeners can get a free heart rate monitor with the purchase of a Hammerhead Karoo 2. Visit hammerhead.io right now and use promo code Murphology at checkout to get yours. I use the Hammerhead Karoo 2 and love it. The full color touchscreen display is intuitive and responsive. It feels more like a smartphone than a GPS device. It's easy to read, and if you use it for navigation, you can route, reroute, or create pin drop routing on the fly. And the turn by turn directions, they've saved me a couple times already. Check it out at hammerhead.io and use code Murphology at checkout. Now back to the show. Okay, well, that segues to my next topic a little bit about weirdos and costumes and recreational
Yay.
riding. You recently spent at least a week in the great state of Iowa.
Yay!
Yay! So everyone knows I talk about it all the time, but the oldest bicycle tour in the world happens here in Iowa, and it's called RAGBRAI, and it happens the last week of July every year. And I believe that you've done this multiple times. I know at least twice, but
Yeah, I've done it 5 times now.
what? 5 times?
Yeah, I
So it's
love
a
it.
it's a 7-day tour across the state of Iowa, and I'm pretty sure, Ryan, you will say that Iowa is not flat. People sometimes think that because all they see of it is driving on the one interstate that goes through west
Yeah.
to east, which is Interstate 80. So beyond that, tell us your RAGBRAI experience for 2022.
First of all, I loved it, and I wasn't
Yay!
planning on it initially. I was supposed to be in Sweden,
Oh,
riding
wow.
my bike from the Arctic Circle down to the bottom of Sweden. But 24 hours before the flight, the airline went on strike, and all the itineraries were canceled. So I was bummed out for a few days and moping around Boulder, and then I was like, wait a second, now I can do RAGBRAI. So I put everything together, and originally I was just going to go alone. And then I was like, wait, maybe my girlfriend Amelia can get a week off of work and come do RAGBRAI with me. So she somehow finagled a last minute week long vacation, and we both went out there together. And it was so great to be back in Iowa at RAGBRAI amongst all the wonderful people in cornfields and pie vendors and slip and slide people. It was so fun. I loved it.
And I got to meet you actually in real life, which was pretty
Hmm.
cool. I know we've done a podcast together a couple years ago, but being able to see you on the road, and I don't remember what I said. I think I'm like, "Are you Ryan Van Duzer?" Or, I mean, of course, I knew it was you because your helmet.
Yeah.
I think Amelia asked me, how did you know it was Ryan from behind? And I'm like, that helmet. That
Yep.
helmet is memorable.
The
But
evil Knievel looking
yeah,
helmet.
yeah. But I think that you had all of your gear on your bike. Is that true?
Hmm. Yep. Yep. Every time I've done RAGBRAI, actually, I carry all my own stuff. I guess we're called baggers.
Yes. Well, in Iowa, typically you're called a dirty bagger because,
A dirty bagger.
you might not be able to get a shower. But I'm assuming since you were on the RAGBRAI route that you had a few luxuries like water and food along the way.
Oh yeah, RAGBRAI is the greatest tour. It was Amelia's first time doing an overnight bike tour, and I told her, I was like, this is the best way to do it because you don't really need to carry food or water. There's aid stations every few miles,
Yeah.
and the people are selling food and pie and fun stuff. So it's a very comfortable way to go on a bike tour. And then at the end of every day, speaking of showers, I always look for the town pool,
Yeah.
and we go to the town pool. We jump in the pool and cool off. We take showers, and then you can usually find a camp spot right next to the pool, and that's how I do it.
And when you say you're a bagger, what you mean by that is you have your tent with you, you have your clothing, you have everything. So you don't need to go find a support vehicle or the official RAGBRAI trailer. Like you're just set. Wherever you decide to camp, you got
Yep,
everything.
exactly. And I love the freedom of that. I have everything I need at all times, and if I want to stop at a certain place and hang out and throw up the tent, then I can do that.
Yeah. How would you describe the riding as far as, the terrain of Iowa, but of course the fact that you're surrounded by, I don't know, upwards towards 20,000 other cyclists?
Mhm. I love it. It's the only organized bike tour I've ever done with other people. Usually my adventures, I am solo on my own in the middle of nowhere. There are definitely no Amish people selling me pies out on the Colorado Trail. But it's I love riding with all the people. I love energy. I love huge groups of people. I run races a lot, and I love just the community and everybody's supportive and fun. And RAGBRAI is kind of like the Boulder Cruiser Ride, where you'll see a little bit of everybody out there. It's not just fast people in spandex on $10,000 road bikes. There's people out on unicycles and cruiser bikes and fat bikes and mountain bikes and people who just pull their old Schwinn out of the barn and jump on RAGBRAI for a day. And it's just heartwarming and welcoming, and I love it. And so I hope for the rest of my life that RAGBRAI will be a part of my summers.
Yes, I hope so too. And RAGBRAI 50 is going to be
Yeah.
happening next year. So I'm really excited and curious to see what's in store for us.
Yeah, I hope they get, all the bands they play all week on the stereos, the classic rock. Maybe they can get them all in real life and have an ultimate concert.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of awesome, let's talk about your sweet bike because
Mm,
I don't know if it's the bike that you rode on RAGBRAI, but I know that you're responsible for actually helping design.
yeah.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. So during the pandemic, March of the pandemic, everything got shut down, all of my travels. And I have a very close relationship with Priority Bicycles in New York City. And I called them up and I said, hey, I know that, you mostly make like round town commuter style bikes, but I want a mountain bike. That's really what I love doing. And let's design a mountain bike. They said, right on, let's do it. So I went back and forth with some of the people at Priority with design ideas, and we put together a really cool hardtail bike packing adventure machine that's low maintenance because it has all of the internal gearing and the carbon belt drive, the Gates carbon belt drive, and it's just a bomb proof adventure bike. And I did not ride that on RAGBRAI this year, but my girlfriend Amelia did.
Ah, okay.
Um, yeah, which was really fun. And yeah, so it's cool to have a bike out there with my slogan on it. It says "Get out there" with a little outline of the Boulder Flatiron Mountains, the famous mountains.
Oh, wow. So wait, are you saying that other people could buy that bike?
What? Yes, of course. Yeah. So
Oh,
I didn't just build it just for me. I want, to share this dream bike with the world. And essentially that's what it is. It's like I've always wanted to design the bike that I would want, with all the perfect specs. Because I've had lots of different bikes over the years, and some are good here and some are good there, but they don't have everything. This bike to me has everything, and it's exciting. It's called the Priority 600X, but you can call it the Duzer Cruiser.
oh yeah, awesome. And I think, that's another thing back to RAGBRAI. What's fun about it is you're on pavement, I would say 99% of the
Yeah.
400 and plus miles. But I was the same as you guys. I was on an adventure bike. I had bigger tires. I have a steel frame. but it
Yeah.
didn't really matter because, again, it wasn't a race, right? This is a
Yep.
recreational tour. You're looking at all the things, you're stopping and taking pictures and seeing the Amish people with their pie. So it was more about comfort, and
Yeah.
you nailed it. I mean, if you found the bike that fits you and is perfect for your adventures, you know there's somebody else out there that will say the same about your bike.
Totally. Yeah, and I saw a few other of them out there. So it's exciting. We started selling the bike in July of 2020 and people have it now and I saw some on RAGBRAI, which was exciting.
Yeah. All right. So go to Priority Bikes,
Yeah,
listeners,
the
and
600X.
check out the 600X. I have to talk about some of your other adventures because, like you said, most of the adventures you do are solo and what I would call really, really difficult. I mean, like, seriously, you're climbing through rocks and mud and snow. Like,
Snow.
I saw one video, I think you were with, I can't remember her name, your friend
Oh, Dana.
Dana, and you guys were on this beautiful, I don't know, dirt road, and it started sprinkling,
Yeah.
and your tires went from normal tires to full of peanut butter mud within minutes, at least on the video.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's
that
it, it
looked
happened instantly.
that looked so brutal. But anyway, give us
Yeah.
some, I don't know, like, tell us about maybe an adventure that you've been on lately.
Yeah, so I've always loved pushing myself physically and mentally. I feel like adventures make me a better person at the end of the day. I'm more compassionate and patient and more connected to nature and to myself and with fellow humans who I meet along the way. So I really value my time out in the woods. And, this past year I did some pretty difficult adventures. I guess we can talk about the Colorado Trail,
Oh,
which is a
yeah.
550-mile hiking trail through the mountains of Colorado, but bikes are allowed on most of it. And this was by far the hardest bike adventure I'd ever been on. I mean, high altitude the whole time, extremely technical terrain, lots of hike a bike, pushing bikes up and down mountains, summer hailstorms and lightning storms.
Mm.
And it pushed me to my absolute limits. But, in the moment, yeah, it might be a bummer and it might be very uncomfortable. But it's one of those things I call type two fun, where afterwards you're like, wow, that was really unique. And even though that was really hard and I was hating life for a little bit, I'm really glad that I pushed myself through all these tough times. And then when I do these things, voluntarily, when I go on these adventures, it helps me in my day to day life when things that I don't control, go out of whack or go south. I'm like, okay, everything's going to be all right. I've been here before. I can solve this problem. And it really does help me in my day to day life.
Yeah. And somehow you can nail this down too, and it shows in your videos. But when you're on those long stretches and maybe, hiking through 3 feet deep snow is not the perfect example. But when you're having those long stretches by yourself, like, how do you keep your mental game so positive?
I get a lot of these comments on my YouTube video, like, how are you still smiling when you're, pushing through, 20 miles of snow on your
Yeah.
bike? And, I take the time to just really be present in the moment and be like, okay, this is hard right now, but I'm still outside. I still have a bike full of food and water. I'm going to be okay. Like if I had to stop right here, right now, I could just put up my tent and be fine. And it's fun. At the end of the day, it's all fun. I'm playing outside, and some days are harder than others.
Mm-hmm.
And what tell people a lot is like, okay, what if I did get frustrated or sad or angry and let my frustrations get the best of me? Then that's not going to help at all in any of these situations. Like you really have to keep your head in the game
Mm-hmm.
to keep moving forward. And for me, that's how I use humor. I sing to myself, or I just try to make it as comfortable as possible, even though it's extremely uncomfortable.
Right. And I guess, to be honest, you probably don't push the record button when you're really, really frustrated.
Sometimes I do.
Oh, do
Those are the
you?
moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the moments that I think are really important to capture, because otherwise you're just making videos showing all the triumphant moments,
Yeah.
and that's not very real. And my channel has always been real. I want it to be genuine. I want to show people what I'm going through, both good and bad. And so some of those videos, you see me break down, and I'm, struggling big time. And just like a regular movie that we go watch at the theater, like the tough parts are what bring the viewers in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You gain an emotional connection to the character. And I've always tried to be very open with my audience about all sorts of different topics. And I think for me, it's almost like therapy. I get to talk to my camera out there in the moment
Mhm.
and just like say it out loud, which helps me. And then when I edit the videos together, people comment and say, "Wow, we really appreciate you showing the tough stuff because, you know, it shows us that you're just a regular guy like all of us."
Yeah. Do you ever, like when you're in the editing mode, you're already back, you're gotten rest, so you're that, what do you call it, type 2 fun?
Yeah,
You're kind of forgetting all the really hard parts. So when you're editing, do you sometimes look at what you've done and where you've been and you're like, "Did I really just do that?"
totally. Yeah, because in the moment you're just charging hard, and sometimes it's difficult to have a perspective of exactly what you're doing. But then when you finish, a Great Divide or a Colorado Trail, you're like, wow, I just rode my bike really far through some really crazy terrain, and I'm proud of myself.
Yeah, there's definitely some videos I've watched where I'm kind of like taking a deep breath, like, "Oh no, don't do that, don't do
Yeah,
that," and then you're kind of, usually you're laughing or like, "Ooh," like,
yeah,
"Okay, here we go," but you're still with us. You're
yeah,
obviously, stay within your levels of safety.
yeah. And that's important too, because at the end of the day, I want to come home.
Right.
I don't want to do stuff that's so crazy that I'm putting my life at risk. And, riding a bike is inherently risky, especially if you're on the roads with unpredictable car behavior. And that's why I've been choosing more dirt adventures so I don't
Mhm.
have to even deal with cars. Distracted driving has become such a problem that I just don't trust drivers in vehicles anymore.
Right.
So I really search out adventures that are far away, which presents its own, list of complications. If you get hurt in the middle of nowhere, you might be in trouble.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, one of the stars that are in quite a
Hmm.
few of your videos is Mira the dog. And
Yep.
I absolutely love every time that you either run into your friend John or you plan a trip with John. And John's the owner of Mira. So give us like a highlight or two about Mira the dog.
Mira is the most wonderful dog in the world. If you've watched my channel, everybody loves Mira. She's charming and funny and nonstop energy, and she loves fetching sticks even after, a long day of bike packing. And some mornings, she'll wake up early and run out of John's tent and run over to my tent and start
Aw.
like batting at the tent for me to wake up and play. So our energy really, we connect really well. I have a deep connection with Mira, and I met them on the Baja Divide out in the middle of nowhere, Baja Peninsula, Mexico, in 2020, just before the pandemic. They were on a
Wow.
ride of their own, and I ran into them. And John knew who I was from the videos, and we ended up riding together for 6 days. Became really good friends, and of course, Mira is along for the ride as well. And since then, we've been able to meet up a few other times.
Mm-hmm.
They are currently on a worldwide dog packing tour, he calls it. So they're down in southern Mexico right now, and I'll try to meet them somewhere down the road whenever I can.
Yeah. Will you briefly describe how Mira actually does these bike rides?
Yes. So John has like an extended rear, bike, so it's a little longer, and he has a basket that goes behind his seat. That's a pretty big basket. And so Mira rides in the basket quite a bit. If he's on flat ground or if he's on roads with lots of cars. But then there are moments when Mira gets to run around. If John's going up a steep hill, there's no way that he can carry Mira up it. So he'll get her out
Mm-hmm.
and she'll run alongside, and then she jumps in and out of the basket all day long. And they have an amazing relationship. It's really fascinating to watch them work together. It's almost like, dog sledding or something.
Mm.
And everybody who comes across Mira, whether we're in a tiny town in Mexico or in Montana, immediately falls in love with Mira. She is a human dog. Some dogs just love humans.
Yes. Yeah.
She loves humans. She doesn't love other dogs as much, but she loves any human, and she knows how to charm them.
And it's amazing to watch because she'll be in that basket. I think she has little, I call them doggles, like dog
Yeah.
goggles when it's, windy or sandy.
Hmm.
And then it seems like a pretty smooth motion where John will reach back and kind of let her jump down.
Yep.
And then she'll run along with you guys. And then poop, she's back in the
Yep.
basket and resting. And I don't know. I'm super impressed.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And he actually has her on a little leash that's tied around his waist. So if they're riding and he's, in motion, he'll tug it and she'll jump out and run alongside for a little bit. And she's still connected to him, so
Mm-hmm.
she can't like run off. Sometimes he does like let her just run free. And then, if he's going up a steep or if he's going down like a steep hill, he'll put her back in the basket and cruise down. And it's just in and out all day.
I love it. And I'm sure Mira the dog is living her best life.
Oh, she's the luckiest dog in the world. She gets to play every single day, run around and fetch sticks all over the world.
Yes. Okay, and speaking of play, another really fun thing I love about your videos is when you're on long rides, you do what I'm going to call crazy fun things like you cheer on trains and you do your ole ole in tunnels and like how
Yeah.
did that come to be or is that just the way that you are?
Yeah, it's kind of the way that I am. I sing to myself all the time. I tell people when I'm in like hard moments, I sing Christmas carols a lot to myself.
Oh, nice.
It's because they're like comforting music and brings me back to Christmas time, which I love. But at the beginning of every ride, I have a little chant that I've been doing since my first bike adventure, riding home from Honduras back to Boulder, and it goes no crashies, no flatties, no
No
whammies,
whammies.
and that's a play off a TV show back in the '80s called Press Your Luck,
Oh
where
yeah, yeah.
where they go no whammies, big money, and the whammies were like these little troll guys that would come and take all your money away in this game show. And when I was riding home from Honduras, I remember just saying to myself, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies, just to kind of ward off the evil spirits. And then I added on no flatties, no crashies. And, that's become something that I do every day. And people have really, I meet people all the time that say it themselves now. And then Ole, I love the Ole chant because I
Yeah.
lived in Mexico for a while. I would go to soccer games and the whole stadium would be chanting Ole, 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 and I just love the energy of it. And so, yeah, whenever I go through a tunnel, of course, tunnels are fun to scream in because they echo. So I always do
Yes.
the Olay chant through tunnels. And yeah, I want to have as much fun as possible out there when I'm on my bike. And me being a dorky goofball really adds to it.
That makes you who you are.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a question I ask a lot of people. And the question is, what inspires you to get back on the bike?
Hmm.
But maybe it's just part of you. So you probably don't
Yeah.
even need inspiration.
I mean, there are times where I get a little burnt out because I exercise a lot. And sometimes my body's just like, give it a rest, buddy. Earlier this year, I was feeling pretty physically burnt out. And, I just kind of had to chill for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But getting the motivation back isn't hard because I know how fun it is. And for me, I don't have a car, so I'm always on my bike, whether it's just riding to the grocery store or something further.
Mm-hmm.
But bikes are just fun; they really are fun. And I think that for me, it's a huge factor in my everyday mood is getting on my bike for a little bit, getting outside, breathing fresh air, noticing a beautiful cloud in the sky or birds chirping. It's just the little things that you don't get when you're sitting in your apartment, you're sitting in a car.
Mm-hmm.
Bikes really put you out there, which is nice.
And even if you're like, I just need to get on my bike for a few minutes, I doubt there's ever a time. At least I'm trying to think if I've ever had a time where I get done with a bike ride and I'm in a worse mood than I started. It just
Yeah,
doesn't
never.
exist. It doesn't exist.
No way. Yep.
Okay, so not only are you a biker, you're also an endurance runner. Like
Hmm.
what? So
Like
I
what?
know you do all these amazing, amazing bike adventures, but you also do
Yeah.
super crazy long distance running. So
Yeah.
which came first, running or biking?
Running did. Yeah, I've been a
Ah.
runner since I was a little kid. We had like a 1 mile race every year at my elementary school. and I took that race really
Oh,
seriously, and I was a good runner, and so I would win this race, and I loved the feeling of winning, but I also loved the feeling of running and moving fast. And from that point on, I've always jumped into local races, and I ran in high school, and I love running. Running is even more simple than riding a bike. All you need is a pair of shoes.
yeah.
And so on a day-to-day level, I run more than I bike for
Hmm.
sure. And in the last 5 years, I've gotten into the ultra distance stuff, the 100 milers. I did Leadville last year, and I love it. It's fun. It's another way to push my body. It's definitely, I wouldn't say as fun as biking. Biking is definitely more fun,
Mm-hmm.
but I do love the simplicity of running and just putting on some shoes, running out my door, and just exploring the foothills near where I live.
Yeah, and not only are you doing like ultra long distance, like for example, you videoed yourself doing, I
Mhm.
think it was the 100 mile, it might have been Leadville or
Yeah.
some long distance, right? So not only are you out running epic distances, you're like have your arms stretched out and you're like filming yourself and filming others around you and you're maintaining your high energy and your excitement. Like, holy crap, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. I like to document not only bike adventures, but my running adventures as well.
Mm-hmm.
And people always say, "You don't you think you could run a lot faster in these races if you weren't busy filming all of them?" And I don't know if that's true because the camera helps take my mind off the pain. Like if I'm mile 80 of a 100 mile race, I pull out the camera and start talking to it about what I'm going through. It kind of just helps me process the moment rather than just keep it all in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoy it.
Well, do you have any upcoming adventures that you want to share?
I'm gonna do the Leadville 100 again here in August 20th.
Bike
So
or
I've been
run?
run, yeah,
Oh, no way. That's coming right
gonna
up.
it's coming right up. So I've been training quite a bit for that, and I don't know exactly what adventure I'll do this September or October, but I will definitely find something to do. There's a trail called the Oregon Timber Trail
Hmm.
that looks really nice. It's kind of like the Colorado Trail. It goes all the way across Oregon. And I don't know. I'm always open to new things, and I have a long list of adventures. I just have to, make them happen.
Sure. Well, until you get your next video up, we have to make sure listeners go to Duzer TV. You can get caught up in hours and hours of watching you on different adventures. And I can tell you've inspired me in more than one situation, but hopefully other people are as well.
Oh, I thank you so much. Yeah, that's really the goal at the end of the day is to show people something that they may not think is possible for themselves, and then baby steps, they go out there and do it.
Yeah.
And I get emails every single day from people saying, "Oh man, I found your videos and I pulled my bike out of the garage after 20 years. I pumped up the tires and I went on my first bike ride of 15 miles and it felt so good." And then on the other end, I get people who go ride across the country and it's changed their life. And
Hmm.
so that's really the goal with my content. And I love hearing from people.
Well, if people want to follow you, obviously I mentioned Duzer TV on YouTube. What other social outlets do you have?
I'm pretty active on Instagram. That's a good one. And my handle is just at Duzer, Duzer. And I do Twitter and all that other stuff. But YouTube is really where I put all of my heart and soul.
Excellent. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story about, enjoying RAGBRAI here in Iowa, but also just all the other adventures you do.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved meeting you in real life at RAGBRAI this year finally. And Iowa will always hold a special place in my heart, and that's 100% due to RAGBRAI and the wonderful people I've met over the 5 years that I've done it. It's the most amazing bike event in the world, and I come home and I tell everybody about it. So hopefully the 50th next year will be the biggest ever.
Yeah. And now you know what it means when people say Iowa nice.
Yes, oh, absolutely. It's the nicest state by far.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
A quick interruption to introduce our newest sponsor, Hammerhead. The Hammerhead Karoo 2 cycling computer helps you find your path forward and unlock your full potential on every ride. And listen, for a limited time, listeners can get a free heart rate monitor with the purchase of a Hammerhead Karoo 2. Visit hammerhead.io and use promo code Murphology at checkout to get yours today. Now back to the show. Well, listeners, that's it for this week. Email me at murphologypodcast@gmail.com if you have a topic or the name of a cyclist you find interesting. Support my podcast at patreon.com/murphology and visit both my Facebook and Instagram pages for daily entertainment. Also, a quick shout out to Simmons Electric for sponsoring this episode. I have more great episodes in the pipeline, so I hope you continue to be a Murphology podcast listener. Thank you.